Hello, welcome to my channel Clear Vision, the place where you can find lots of videos with practical psychology uses which you can apply to your life today to begin to make improvements or overcome something or make complete positive changes in your life. Today I wanted to discuss or look at the question, does manifesting, setting intentions, positive thought, changing your mindset, giving gratitude, does any of this work? Does any of this do anything? Or are we just fooling ourselves and is it just hocus pocus? And the short answer to this question is, yes, it does do something. There is a more in-depth answer, but before we get to that, we need to establish something. And that is, wait for the wind, and that is that if you don't dream it, if you don't think it, you're never going to achieve it. At the same time, if you think it, dream it, move towards it, work towards it, yes, you stand a high chance of getting it, whatever it may be, but it's also no guarantee. You have to take into effect economic factors, your talent, other people's talent, whatever. I mean, this is a generalization. So whatever it may be, that has to be, they may be contributing factors. But one thing's for sure, if you don't think it and you think you're gonna fail and you think you're not good enough, you're never gonna get it. So, that one out of the way, what's the in-depth answer? And for that, we need to look into some neurobiology, which is the biology of the brain, which is studied via neuroscience, which is the scientific study of the brain. Now, I could do tons of videos on neuroscience, neurobiology, and how it all works. I'm going to break it down just for the purposes of this question. I'm going to break it down into something quite simplistic. With each experience that you have in life, and mainly positive experiences, neurons within the brain fire out from various centers and they make connections. There are loads of videos on YouTube and social media which talk about mirror neurons, and brain connections, and etc, if you want to find out more. So let's say, for instance, you have a positive an empathic experience which is positive. There will be, and again, for the purposes of this video, there will be a neuron fire out from your long-term memory center and another one from your short-term memory center and your emotional center and maybe a physical feeling center and something else, and they'll make a connection, they'll join, thus creating, say, like a circuit or some wire or wiring, if you want a different metaphor. And each time we experience this positive situation again, this empathic connection again, more neurons fire along the same pathway, thus thickening and reinforcing the connection that's already there. The same can be said for negative situations. Certain connections are made, that's why you have associations, blah, 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 blah. But there's something different with negative experiences. Negative experiences tend to release in the brain a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol actually severs connections. So if you imagine there's this layering of connection, so you have this positive experience, a connection is made, and each time you repeat that positive experience, more connections are made, more neurons fire together, thus creating the architecture of the brain, if you like. It's all the scaffolding, all the piping, all the tubing, all the electrics, everything. The architecture of the brain is created. And then you have a stressful experience, you have a negative experience, you have a traumatic experience. Your body releases cortisol. Cortisol flows into the brain and throughout the body and starts severing these connections, okay? Thus weakening the connections that are already there. So if you spend a lot of time in negative situations, negative scenarios, traumatic situations, your body's going to release a lot of cortisol and you're going to sever a lot of brain connections, thus damaging the architecture of the brain that you built up and also changing it. Okay, so this is all really wonderful. How does this fit into the question that we're trying to answer? If you turn situations into positive. So you have a negative, what seems like a negative situation. Let's use a relationship breakup. Your partner leaves you, doesn't want to be with you anymore. And most of us will feel pain, sadness, rejection, guilt maybe, shame maybe, and various other things, maybe slump into depression. Now, what they'll do is we'll release cortisol. Seems like a natural response. If we were able to change our mindset and kind of go, okay, yeah, that's not so great, but actually I got this from the relationship, I learned that from the relationship, I enjoyed this, so we don't go too black and white with it, we don't go either or, which is another human trait. We tend to, while something is serving us and bringing us lots of positive stuff, we tend to go, yeah, this is amazing, and then when it's taken away from us, we kind of go, yeah, well, it was shit anyway, and blah, blah, blah. But if we change our mindset and we see the positives in it, we see what we got from a certain situation, we can see why it's happened or what other doors have opened for us. What we do is we reduce the stress, we reduce the cortisol, and we reinforce other connections or make new connections and then begin to reinforce those. And the same can be said for when we manifest or when we set intentions. We set our mind in a certain way, and so we begin to take steps towards our goals, towards what we want to do. And again, changing the mindset. So let's say, for instance, I don't know, you want to, I use this, you want to start a YouTube channel, and you can have the mindset of, oh, I haven't got thousands and thousands of viewers, I haven't got thousands and thousands of subscribers, blah, 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 blah. It's all negative, it's not working. You're releasing lots of cortisol. Okay, so you had this intention, you had this thing you wanted to manifest, but you're looking at it so negatively, your mindset's on what you haven't got rather than what you have got, that your body's releasing cortisol and severing brain connections. Change it around and look at the tiny increments of progress you're making, look at where you've dropped a bit and what you've learned from it, and you go, oh, I take it from that, I'm going to change my video format, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, this was really good, there was a little achievement there. This produces all the happy chemicals, all the dopamines and serotonins and things, and makes new connections, reinforces those connections, layers those connections each time they're repeated. So setting your intention, manifesting, setting your manifestation, deciding what that is, changing your mindset, giving gratitude, these things all bring micro changes within the brain, micro changes in your perception, or big changes actually in your perception of the world and your experiences, which in turn change the architecture of your brain and the chemicals running around in your brain. If you go back the other way to look at what you're not getting and you're looking at the destination and, oh, I'm not there yet, etc., etc. And so the in-depth answer is yes, it does work. When you do these things, you literally change the architecture of your brain, your perception of the world, your reaction to the world, and the way you move around within it, which makes positive changes in the brain and thus the body, and moves you closer towards that ultimate destination that you have. But you stop focusing on that ultimate destination and you begin enjoying the journey, and you begin to see all the positives that come your way and the little increments of change, the little increments of achievement. And that is why these things actually work and how they work. Hope that helps. It's really windy up here today. Hope that helps, and if you want to hear more or there's something else you want me to discuss, please like and subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next one.